All right, today, usually we learn Torah or, and I'm going to put up the classes on Torah or, God willing. Also, there were classes I think that I did last year. I can put those classes up also, but I want to learn BATI L'GANI. BATI L'GANI is a sentence from the Song of Songs, BATI L'GANI, and of course the Song of Songs was a book written by King Solomon, and it's a love song between God and the Jewish people, and the Jewish people and God. And it changes tense, and it changes person, and it changes gender, and it's all allegory and metaphors. There's no simple meaning in the book, because it doesn't talk, clearly about what exactly is the topic, what's going on. One of the sentences there is God says, "I have come to my garden, my sister bride. I have come to my garden. Bati L'Gani, I've come to my garden." And it's explained that what this means is that God came to the world in a revealed way in the Holy Temple. And that God wants to be revealed. And it's not the first time. God was revealed before Adam sinned with the tree. So God was perfectly revealed in the world. What does it mean that God was revealed in the world? That the world simply felt that everyone in the world, everything in the world, felt that they were creations, and and human beings felt that they were created for a reason, and they were tremendously happy to fulfill this reason, this obligation, right? Like a person that's hired for a job. You try out for a job, right? You're trained, and you try out for a job, and you get the job. You get the job, and it's a good paying job, and you get the job, and it has a lot of responsibility, your job, but you're happy. You have a job, right? I'm happy. You can go around people and say, "I am the head of this firm," or "I am the head of this department in the hospital," or "I have this law firm and I'm the head." He's got a job. He has a reason to wake up in the morning. He has a reason that a person feels good when he has a job, and especially if the job is a good job. Well, Adam had a job. His job was from God, and he was happy. He was happy. He was being created by God, and he has a job, and he's in the world, and he's happy. And Abraham and I'm sorry, and Adam shirked his responsibility. We know the terrible story. It was a job that was fraught with a lot of how do you say, dangers and temptations, and it was very, very difficult job to do, and it was a very delicate job to do. And Adam simply did not stand under the pressure, and he didn't do the job. But ideally, if Adam would have not eaten from the tree, then we would feel that same gratitude and that same joy and that same happiness as a person that has a very important job and he's doing the job. And there's maybe nothing worse than a person that gets fired from his job. People that don't have what to do, they don't have work, so everyone's depressed and they feel terrible, and they don't want to live anymore. And there's a high suicide rate and etc. and disease rate. But people have a job, right? They have something to do. They're feeling doing something is that they feel very important. So the fact is, every human being has a job, a task from God every moment of their life. And that's what it means when God is felt. That was the Holy Temple. What was the Holy Temple? The Holy Temple was a place where they served God. You went to the Holy Temple, you felt you're being created, and you're being created for a purpose. You're being created for a purpose. One second, this thing is falling. Oh, you're being created for a purpose to serve God. That's the way the world was. And when Adam ate from the tree, so this got all mixed up and messed up and confused, and the world became very sick. And the job of us is to heal the world back again. And the way to do this is to ignore the selfishness, to not fall into the same pitfall that Adam did, and become egotistical and think about what I want. And the first ones to do that was Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And we're the ones that are going to bring God back to the garden. In the beginning, God was in the garden, and we're going to bring back God back to the garden. That's the idea of the Moshiach. Moshiach is going to be the one that's going to finalize this whole entire process, and that's what this mimer is about. Now, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that every Rebbe of Chabad is the Moshiach of his generation. Every Rebbe of Chabad is the Moshiach of that generation. And the Rebbe spoke many times that the previous Rebbe, even after he passed away, that he's the Moshiach. That he'll come back in the raising of the dead, whatever it's going to be. But suffice it to say that the whole idea of God and revealing God and serving God in this world should not be a thing that's far away from our, how do you say, our value system in life. Right? It should not be a thing which is removed from reality. Right? Like people nowadays, they look forward to having a little bit of money and more money in the bank, or they look forward to coming home and having a nice meal, or they look forward to getting a raise in pay, or to getting a good word, excuse me, an encouraging word, or a compliment from someone makes you feel good. That's what we look forward to. Those are good things. But even more, we should be looking forward to any moment should be meaning in the world. The world should be like it was before Adam sinned with the tree. The world should be a place where we feel that we're important to God, that we're being created by God, infinitely more important than anything you can possibly imagine. That we should be waiting for that any second, and that's what the Rebbe wants us to do here. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of Hasidut Chabad in general, and that's why every leader of Chabad is called the Moshiach of his generation. So we're reading the words of the Moshiach. Ready? Here we go. This was a mimer which was written by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe many years before it was printed here. But the Rebbe decided to have this, the previous Rebbe decided to have this mimer printed out, reprinted, and to be learned on Yud Shvat, which was the day of the passing away of his grandmother. And it ended up being the day that he passed away himself. So we look at this as being a will and testament for our generation, an empowering of our generation to bring the Mashiach. Now, here we go. B'siyata d'shmaya, with God's help, Yud Shvat Tafshin Yud. Tafshin Yud, and that was the date when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away. This is the yortzeit of his grandmother, Rabbanit Rivka. BATI L'GANI achoti kala, I have come to my garden, my sister bride. This is King Solomon saying, quoting God, I have come to my garden. Where's the garden? The Garden of Eden, where Adam was. I've come back. It says in the Midrash Rabbah, Lagan ein kativ kad. It doesn't say I have come to the garden, but I have come to my garden. Gani, to my garden. And the word garden also is similar to the word ganuni, and it has the same implication. A ganuni is a wedding canopy. I've come back to the wedding canopy. God is saying, what wedding canopy? It was the place where Adam got married to Eve, right? Chava, they got married, right? Yes, but even more, it's the place where God got married to the world. The world was the bride, and God was the groom, as that was the place, the wedding day, when God and the world united. A wedding is a very happy thing. And God's saying, since Adam ate from the tree, I haven't been here. When Mashiach comes, I'm going to come back, and we're going to renew the vows. Second honeymoon, or whatever you want to call it. The place where I was, my essence was in the beginning. The Ikar Shekhinah, that my main presence, God's presence, was in the physical world. Now, this word Shekhinah means God's presence. It implies that God reacts to what we do, that God cares. God is everywhere, but he's not revealed everywhere. Right? Just like a person, you have a good friend, then you reveal your true self to that person, your good friend. You can confide in him, you can ask him questions, you're going to take personal matters to him. You reveal who you really are. When your friend is happy, you're happy. Right? It matters to you. That's called the Shekhinah, your presence. The same thing with God. God cares about the world. That's the world, in a way, is God's Shekhinah, but not in a revealed way. In the Holy Temple, that was God's Shekhinah, because they served God there. The Jewish people are called God's Shekhinah. In the beginning, God's awareness is revelation. Revelation of God was in the physical world. By means of the sin of the tree of knowledge, the Shekhinah went away. In other words, God's friendship, his pleasure, went away from the earth, it says, to the first heaven. And by means of the sin of Cain, the Enosh, Cain killed his brother, right? And Enosh, it says, that was the next generation. They worshipped idols. Is that the Shekhinah went away from the first heaven to the second and the third. And afterwards, in the generation of the flood, when they says that they were stealing from each other, then the generation, it says, Nistalka, Mirakia, Gimel to Dalid. The Shekhinah went even higher and higher. Kiri'ita b'midrash Rabbah, like it says. Now, what does this mean also to us? It's like a person that he steals once. He steals once, so he feels bad about it. He stole, but the second time he steals, it doesn't feel so bad anymore. And the third time, it's already his nature. And the fourth time, there's nothing wrong with stealing. He just tries to be a good thief, not to get caught. And it's his business. Like it says in the Midrash Rabbah on the sentence, Vayishma es kol Hashem Elokim mishalech bagan. After Adam ate from the tree, so he heard the sound of God walking in the garden. But it doesn't say he's walking, it says he's being walked. Like pushing himself, walking himself. Omer Rababa Mahalech. It doesn't say that God is walking in the garden. Elomitalech. God is forcing himself. Kafetz v'azel, kafetz v'azel. God is pushed away from the garden. Right? Adam, by eating the tree, from the tree, he did what God wanted. God said, that's it. He's not, let me out of here. But afterwards, after the 7 generations, got worse and worse. Finally, after that, there stood 7 tzaddikim. The 7 tzaddikim, they came down. The first one was Abraham. They reversed the process. They started influencing God the opposite way. Instead of God being driven away from the world, right? God became closer to the world. Maybe the world is not so bad after all. Abraham was the first one, and he brought the Shekhinah back from 7th level to the 6th level. Yitzchak, he brought it from the 6th level to the 5th level, right? I don't know if they saw anything, if they felt anything, probably not. The whole thing with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was that they had faith that if they did good, it would be good. Even though they didn't see any good, they didn't get any results, God promised them the land of Israel. He promised them their children would be like the stars of the sky, and they didn't get any of that. But nevertheless, they served. They knew that God was right. They knew, despite what the world says, and that's called breaking through the klippah, whatever the shells of the world, until came Moses. 7 generations until Moses came. One after the other, pleasing God with total self-sacrifice, without any remuneration or any results whatsoever, until Moses came. Moses, the number 7, and all number 7s are dear. Moses brought the Shekhinah back down to the earth. The Iker Kilisha Elokus, the main revelation of godliness, was in the Holy Temple. The Kasiv, like it says, Asalim Mikdash v'Shachanti b'Tocham, when God tells Moses to make the tabernacle. They got out of Egypt. The first thing is God says, make a tabernacle. Make the tabernacle, and I will dwell in them. It doesn't say make a tabernacle and I will dwell in it, which is the fact. It doesn't say I will dwell in it, but inside of them, inside of each and every one. That's what it means, tzaddikim yirshu oretz v'yishkanu la'ad aleha. That's what it means, that tzaddikim will inherit the earth and they will dwell forever on it. Don't say that they will dwell forever on it. Midrash. The Midrash takes the words and finds a deeper meaning. Not that tzaddikim will inherit the world and dwell forever on it, raising of the dead, but it means that tzaddikim, they'll inherit the earth, which that's called the upper heavens, make them down here. Why can they make the heavens down here in the world? Why? Because because they draw down. Mamshichin bechinat ad, this level which is called ad. The yishkanu, they make dwell la'ad, the eternal one. Shochin ad maroma kadosh. It's in our prayers of Shabbat. We call God the one who dwells forever high. That we make la'ad, God, dwell on it. Shia begili lamata, that it should be revealed here below. So here's another look at world history. You're not going to find in any history book in any university ever. This is the main theme of history. God revealed, God concealed. And then God revealed again. On when God created the world, he was revealed. He revealed the world was meaningful, the world was blessed, the world was happy, the world was an amazing gift. And everyone felt gifted and appreciative every instant. That was a couple of hours. That's the way the world was. Only a few hours. And then afterwards, Adam ate from the tree, messed the whole thing up. And generations after generations took Adam's bad example and they followed their egotistical desires. Worse and worse. Shekhinah goes away. God concealed 7 times. Then 7 times God revealed until finally it came into the Holy Temple. Now, since the God revealed himself in the Holy Temple, as God basically is revealed. He's revealed back in the world, Holy Temple, right? And that's the way it is now. God is now. Now, the whole thing depends on us. Each person has to make his own internal work, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did. That's the idea of Chassidut, that everything written in the Torah is inside of us. So we have to make this effort inside of us. Then God's going to reveal it in a big way. But God revealed himself in the big way in the world that was already done. Now it depends on the Jewish people to do it again. That's what we have to do. That's like BATI L'GANI. That's what it says. I have come to my garden, L'ganuni, to my wedding canopy, L'makom shai techila, the place where I was in the beginning. The Ikar Shekhinah, that the main revelation of God, the main presence of God was in the physical world. That's where God wants to be, in the physical world. That's the whole point. The physical world is the name of the game. The goal is the physical world. That's the name. That's the whole purpose. Right? Like in a soccer match or something. The purpose is not that the crowd gets happy or that you get a lot of money or your picture is in the paper. The purpose of the whole thing is to put the ball in the net. That's the thing. That's the whole purpose, right? That God should be revealed here in the world. That's the purpose, not the rewards, not anything else. Only that God should be revealed here in the world. And of course, the way to do this is through the Jewish people doing the Torah. And how they do the Torah, the attitude that they should have, which that's what we're going to talk about. That's what the Soul Mimer is going to talk about. The finale of this whole business is Moshiach Moshiach is going to build the third temple. It's like this. The whole purpose of creation and the making of the worlds is the Nitaba Kodesh Baruch Hu, that God desired. Why did God make the world in the first place? That God desired Liot Lo, that there should be for him Dira B'Tachtonim, dwelling in this physical world. Excuse me. Now, before God created the world, there was no time, there was no place, there was no up, there was no down. There were no people, there was no choices, there was no sins, there were no commandments. And God decided to create, when God decided to create the world, that's when, if you want to call it reality as we know it, began. Before that, there was no time, there was no place. You can't say what was there before the world was created. Before the world was created, there was no such thing as before. There was no before, no after. God, that's it, he created the world, and he's creating the world right now. So really, every instant right now is also eternal. But because he created the physical world the way it is now, we don't feel anything is eternal. How do we say life is but a dream? Nothing has any true meaning to it. Nothing has any. The whole idea of God creating the world is that we should feel that it's God creating the world, that the world itself is holy. Potentially, it's there, but we have to reveal it. God wants us to be revealed godliness in the world, and it should be by means of our service, avodat Adam, by means of what? Eskafia v'hapcha, by means of what's called forcing yourself to do good and turn from bad. And eshapcha means really enjoying doing good and hating anything that's bad. Eskafia means that you force yourself to do what God wants. And eshapra means you really, truly enjoy what God wants. You love it and what God wants. And you hate anything that's opposite of what God wants. Eskafia and eshapra. Eskafia is usually for normal, regular people, and eshapra is like for tzaddikim. But in small ways, we can also transform ourselves. We can enjoy serving the Creator, get pleasure out of serving the Creator. That's eshapra, transforming. We feel godliness. We feel the enjoyment of it, of serving God. And we feel that how disgusting and terrible it is to do anything against what God wants. That's eshapra. That's the goal that everyone will feel. That's how the Tanya starts off, be a tzaddik. That everybody should feel, enjoy, love doing what the Creator wants. Nothing better, nothing more enjoyable, nothing. And eskafia means that you don't enjoy doing what God wants, but you want to do it. You realize it's right, and you force yourself. The neshama tered, that the soul comes down into the world, lamata, to be clothed in a body and an animal soul. Your body is your body, and your animal soul is your personality, your desires. You want to eat, you want to sleep. There's some things you like, some things you don't like. That's called an animal soul. Ego. And the body and the animal soul, you can call it the animal soul, you can call it the human soul. They conceal and hide on the light of the soul, of the godly soul. Because despite all this opposition that the soul has, now mainly the Rebbe here is talking about Jews, because the Jews are more, he said, clear the dichotomy, nice word, big word, dichotomy, between the godliness and the world. By a non-Jew, the dichotomy is spirituality and physicality. By a Jew, there's three things. There's godliness, spirituality, and physicality. That sort of corresponds in a way to what's in the Jews. There's three souls, even though in Chassidus it's only called two. But there's three souls. One's a godly soul that totally feels godliness like Adam felt godliness before he ate from the tree. Then there's what's called the regular, normal soul. But then there's what's called the spiritual soul. That's what's, if you want to call it, you can call it the human soul. That if experiences values and conscience and makes decisions, right? That's where all the decisions are made in what's called the human soul. It's called the nefesh hasichlit. Okay, in any case, the godly soul, which is pure godliness, it comes into the world and is clothed and suddenly gets a new identity. One identity is, I'm not godly, I'm a human being. Another identity is, I'm not a human being, I'm an animal. Right? I'm an animal. Here you see the people, the greatest people, the highest, most spiritual people, they're tempted to act like animals. Right now, it's a big thing going on. There's a big scandal going on with the people. There's big lists of people that acted like animals. Right. That all these things, nevertheless, they hide over the soul. So if so, why does God do such a thing like this? Why does He put us in this terrible situation, like God putting the Jews into Egypt? What did He do it for? Because tiful and neshama, the soul can cause a birur, a zichuch, a refining, and a purification, a clarification of the body and the animal soul. Unlike going out of Egypt where they had to destroy Egypt, we can refine our body and our personality. Like to make a holy temple, what was the holy temple? Bricks. Holy temple was physical things, but it became holy because it was used for what God wants. But God also, you can not only refine yourself, you can also refine your whatever you deal with in the world. That's what God said to Moses, make me a holy temple and I'll dwell inside of them, inside of each and every one. Each and every Jew. After Moses built the tabernacle, now it depends on each one of us to make ourselves a holy temple. This is by means of service, by refining ourselves by means of what's called self-control and self-transformation. Like it says, in the Zohar. It says, let's see where it says this in the Zohar. 3. The Tanya says, Lakuti anyway, it brings from the Zohar, and sure it says somewhere. Right, doesn't say. Tanya. Okay, but this, I'm almost sure this comes from the Zohar. I have to find. Kad eskafia, when there is, kad eskafia, when there is eskafia, when there is forced, the sitra achra, your feeling of selfishness, is stalik yakora, that is spread out the glory of God in all of the worlds. So when a Jew just forces himself to do good or to turn from bad, that this gives God pleasure, and the pleasure of God, the glory of God, the revelation of God is revealed in all of the worlds. What do you mean all the worlds? The Rebbe will go through a little bit of a list of what it means, all the worlds, how many worlds there are. But what do we care about all the worlds? The main thing is that we want God to be revealed here. It says, I'll tell you why it says all the worlds. Mashkatuv, that's what it says, that when a Jew does what God wants in this world, and it could be a non-Jew also, but we're talking mainly about Jews here. That when a Jew does, because the Torah was commanded to the Jewish people, even though in the Torah there's also the 7 Noahide commandments, but it's not the same thing as the Jews. Okay, let's just take it at face value here. When a Jew does what God wants, or he refrains from what God prohibits, then it reveals godliness in all of the worlds. What does it mean, all of the worlds? Because it's talking about a level of life which is in all of the worlds equally. Hainu ora soviv kolonu, the light which surrounds all the worlds, shemeir b'kol olamos, that shines in all of the worlds equally. The olamos and the worlds, there's different levels. It's not similar to the upper worlds, to the lower worlds. Olamos el yonim, and the upper worlds, it shines the light in a revealed way. In the lower worlds, the light doesn't shine so revealed. But yesh, sometimes the light of godliness is concealed in this world. But yesh, there's all sorts of different levels of revelation. That's how God made the world. When he made the world, it's not just that there's God and the world. Right? The Torah seems to make it very simple. The Torah says, God said, let there be a world, and there was a world. That's it. Right? And then the first day he created light, and then he created this, a firmament, and he created grasses, and then there was the fish and birds and animals and people, and that's it, the world. But the fact of the matter is that the process to making a world is very, very tremendously complicated. And it's something like a human being. When we meet a person, so what do we meet? We see a person. There's a person, right? Here's Joe, my good friend Joe. Inside of Joe is his skeleton, but we only see the outside of the skin. Underneath the skin, there is muscles. And under the muscles, there's bones. And what connects the bones, there's ligaments. And then there's nervous. Then there's the nervous system. And inside of that, there's a circulatory system. And there's an endocrine system. And there's all. Then we have, that's only the physical. Then we have the emotional system. The emotional system. Sometimes a person can be affected like this, and he can get depressed, and it can be happy, it can be this. It's the emotions. Then we talk about, what about his mind? What about a person's mind? A person can use his mind, and he can change his emotions. And what about a person's soul? Love, things that come from a person's essence. What about that? So we see that Joe, who's my friend, is tremendously complicated. Tremendously complicated. But all I really care about is, the external Joe, right? External Joe. I don't care about Joe's pancreas or Joe's what was his scapula or his his whatever it is, his skull. I don't care about those things. I care about the external. Says, yeah, but the fact is that's not the whole picture of Joe. The same thing with the world. The world, we see the external. And a religious person believes that God created it. But the fact is there's all these things in the middle. And that's what the books of Kabbalah talk about. All these different spiritual levels we're talking about, even though it doesn't say exactly in the pancreas of God, but it's talking about these different levels of godliness, the 10 sphirot, how they are in the world of Yetzirah, and then of Bria, and Atzilus, all these things. And it's very important to know these things, or at least the existence of them, to know that these spiritual worlds are only creations. They're not God. That's where the other religions make the mistake, is they think the spiritual is God. And it's not God. Not God. They're just levels. Okay, but when a Jew does what he's supposed to do in this world, so it reveals godliness, not only in this world, but also in all the other spiritual worlds, also in this internal whole system that's going on. It's revealed godliness. Why? Because God creates the whole business. He creates all of these upper worlds and all these secret worlds, all of them together, and the whole thing depends on what we Jews do here in this world. That's what it says, that when a Jew does kataskafia, when a Jew forces himself to do what God wants, is to spread out the glory of God in all of the worlds together. All of the worlds. The upper worlds, there's more godliness revealed. In the lower worlds, there's not so much godliness. And there's sometimes that the world, the light of God is totally concealed, like it is here. There's all sorts of different levels, like it says, Af yadi yista oretz, my hand founded the earth, and my right arm spread out the heavens. I think this is from Job. I have to look and see Job. It says, my God said, my right hand, yadi, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, again. My hand founded the earth. This is referring to God's left hand. The Yamini, and my right hand spread out the heavens. It says in the Midrash that God stuck out his right hand and he created the heavens, and he stuck out his left hand and he created the earth. The right hand that shows on more revelation. That's what it means that my right hand spread out the heavens, that the heavens, they are the upper worlds. Whatever, it's too far. The heavens, the contention is the upper worlds. That comes from God's right arm. There's more revealed. And the light itself is more revealed. In other words, there's more light up there in the upper worlds. There's more light, and the light is not concealed. In this world, we have a little bit of light, and the light itself, the little bit that we got, is concealed. Something like, I mean, you can give an example like a child in mathematics. So the people who learn mathematics in university, so they just put a couple numbers on this, and that a couple numbers already implies all these the other formulas and algebra and logarithms and things like that. But one little number, a child. So there's a lot of light, and it's revealed. A lot of light. There's tremendous mathematical deep ideas, and everything is revealed. The children in the first grade that they're learning mathematics, there's only a little tiny bit of light, a little tiny bit. 1 and 1 is 2. What does that mean? 1 and 1 is 2. You have one apple and another apple. It comes out you have 2 apples. It says, does that work also with bananas? Yeah, it's very simple. It has to be very simple. And the ideas, they're very small ideas, and they're very concealed. They're concealed in apples or bananas. The same thing in this world, godliness is very, very, very small amount, and the little bit of amount is very concealed. That's called the earth. That's when God created the world, he created upper levels and lower levels. The lower levels are where godliness is not revealed so much. And also the light itself is concealed. Like it's known, the difference between the 4 worlds. Like it says, it's a sentence from Isaiah. Anything that's called in my name and my glory, I created it, I formed it, and I made it. This is called the 4 worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. That's the 4 worlds. The light of God is different in each and every world, and we're going to talk about this more, God willing, tomorrow. The point is to talk about the 4 worlds, but when a Jew does a commandment, it reveals godliness not just in this world, but all the worlds. Why? Because the light that's revealed by a commandment is totally different than all this. It's the light of the Creator, not the creation. So therefore, the Creator by God, the upper highest level of creation is the same thing as the lowest. It's all creation. It's all a big miracle. So therefore, when we do a commandment, it touches the essence of the Creator himself, as we're going to talk about more tomorrow. Now, story. Yom Yom. Excuse me.